Well, hi there Photoshoppers and welcome. Today we've got a full-length tutorial for you on giving an image a watercolour effect. So we're going to be using filters, we're going to be using layers to create that effect. Now I did create an action and I did this for a reason, because it allowed me to speed the process up, so I could try it out on an image rather than go through building up all the layers every time. Now that helped me to come up with some interesting results. If you'd like the action, it is available as a download. If you look in the More section underneath the video, I'll leave a link there for you, and if you click on that you can download the action and try it out for yourself and let me know how you go on. Okay, I think it's time we got on with this. My name's Ken Fisher and this is LiveLink Training. Now today I want to show you a technique for giving your images a watercolour like painterly look. Now it'll not work for all images. You do need an image that's got a strong focal point, maybe some shadows and a little bit of background. That said, I have tried it out on several different images and most of the time I do get a very pleasing result. So let's get down to it. Now there is a printed tutorial to accompany this video and I've written an action to automate the process. Now both are available as downloads from my website. The links you can find underneath the video. Now step one, we need to resize this image. Now the filter effects that we're going to use are all image size dependent. Now that means that the settings you use on a small image, they'll not transfer to work the same with a larger image. Now the size of the images I'm going to be using is 1000 pixels on the long edge. Now you could use larger files if you want, but you'll just have to adjust the filter settings up or down to get the same effect. Okay, so let's do that thing. So I'm going to go up to the image and I'm going to go to image size. Now this is a portrait image, so I want the height to be a maximum of 1000 pixels. And I'm going to click OK, and then I'll just Control and plus just to zoom in a little bit so we can see that smaller image. Okay, step 2. Now we're going to make a sketch layer. Now as most artists do, they'll start with a sketch. Now we're going to create a copy of the background layer. Now for this we can use a very good little keyboard shortcut called Ctrl and J, and this will create us a new layer. Now we're going to rename this photocopy. There we are, that's that done, and I'll make sure that it's active by clicking on it. Now we're going to run the photocopy filter on this, and these filters are all in the filter gallery. So I'm going to go over to filter and filter gallery, and in the sketch section, so I'll just close the artist section there, and if we open the sketch section, in here we've got a filter called photocopy. So I'm just going to click on that. You can see the preview window here, what effect it's having. I'll just click this minus just to make it a little bit smaller. You can see the preview. Now I want to set the detail value to 1 and the darkness to 50, and then I'll click OK. Now we've got a white sketch on a black background, and I don't want that. I want that the other way around. So I need to invert this image, and I can do that with a keyboard shortcut, Control and I. Now it's a little bit pasty, so I'd like to increase the contrast a little bit on this. So I'm going to go up to image and I'm going to try auto tone. Yeah, that's a bit better. It's just give it a little bit more punch. Now step 3, we're going to use the palette knife filter. Now for this we'll want another layer to run the palette knife filter on. So I'm going to go over to my background layer and just click on it to make sure it's active. I'm going to create another copy of the layer, again with Ctrl and J, and I'm going to rename this palette knife. Now the palette knife filter that we're going to run, this is going to break the images up into a big splodge of colours. So let's go and run that filter. So we're going to go to filter and we're going to go to filter gallery, but this time instead of the sketch I'm going to go to the artistic section, and down here in the middle we've got the palette knife filter, and you can see exactly what it's doing. It's like breaking up the image into splodges of colour. Now here are the settings. What I need is the stroke size 33, the stroke detail of 3, and a softness value of 5. And then I'm going to click OK. There we have. We've now got our palette knife layer. Okay, now this palette knife filter can, depending on your image, it can make it quite dark. So what I'm going to do is create a facility where we can actually lighten this layer if we need to. And I'm going to do that with an adjustment layer. So I'm just going to click to make sure that the palette knife layer is active, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to select a levels adjustment layer. And there it is. That's put the layer in position, but at the moment that's going to affect everything underneath it, which I don't want to do. I just want it to be tied or clipped to the palette knife layer. And I can do that by, if I hover over the join between them and I hold the Alt key down, you get this little square symbol with an indent. And if I click now, what will happen is it will indent a little bit this way, and you've got this funny little symbol here, which now means that this layer is clipped to the palette knife layer. So now if I need to, I've got this adjustment, I can lighten that layer up a bit. But I mean, you can't see it doing that because obviously we've got the photocopy layer active. So what I'll do, I'll just turn that off so you can see what's happening now. So if I lighten this up, if I need to, and I'll just lighten it up a little bit and then close that down. Next up is step 5, and for this one we're going to use the watercolour filter, and again I need a layer to run it on. So I'm going to go back to my background layer, click on it to activate it, Control and J to make a duplicate, and we'll rename this layer Watercolour Filter, and just click to accept that. And now we're going to run the watercolour filter on it. So we're going to go over to the filter menu and filter gallery, and this time down at the bottom of the artistic section we've got watercolour. Now what the settings I need for this is the brush detail of about 7, shadow intensity of 0, and a texture of 1. Okay, you can see the effect that's having on the image, and we'll click OK. Okay, now we're going to drag the watercolour filter layer, and I'm going to put it above the palette knife and its adjustment layer, and then I'm going to switch off its visibility so we can see what's going off underneath. Now we're going to add a little darker shadow detail with another watercolour filter, but this time with different settings. So as before, I'm going to click on the background, I'm going to Control and J to create another copy, and then I'm going to rename this Watercolour 2. And now I'm going to run the watercolour filter on it again. So I'm going to go to Filter and Filter Gallery and Watercolour, but this time I'm going to use different settings. For the brush detail I'm going to select 3. For the shadow intensity I'm going to select a 1, and for the texture I'm going to select a 3, and then I'm going to click OK. Now I want to drag this second watercolour filter layer and drag it in between the photocopy and the first watercolour one, and then I'm just going to turn that off so the top 3 layers have now not visible. Okay, that looks cool. What we're going to do now is start to do some blending of all these layers that we've made. we'll start with a palette knife layer, and for that I'm going to go up and I'm going to select the light and blend mode to let some of those lighter tones through. Now I'm going to start with a watercolour layer, so I'm going to click on that to make the visible and click to make it active, and then we're going to go up to the blend modes again, but this time we'll do screen, and that's lightened it up and let some of that underlying colour through. We'll now do the same with the watercolour 2 layer. I'm going to click the visibility eye to make it visible and click on it to actually activate the layer. Then I'm going to go up and we're going to select screen again. And the final piece of the jigsaw, I'm going to click on the photocopy layer and make that active. But this time I'm going to select multiply because I want all those black tones and I want it to drop out all that white. And there we go. Now just to finish this off, if you think it needs it, I'm going to create another 2 adjustment layers. So the first one I'm going to do is a levels one, and I'll call this exposure. And then I'll create another one and I'll have this as a hue saturation, and I'll rename this and call it colour. And then I'm just going to make whatever visual adjustments I think are necessary. So I'll double click on the exposure and I'll maybe darken it down a little bit and possibly pull the colours out a little bit more with the colour layer by making the colours more saturated. Well, that's it. I think our work here is done. Well, that's my take on how to give your image a watercolour effect. Now I've made an action for you so you can experiment with all the settings of all the filters and get a bit creative. So let's see how that works. Let's first revert this image for you. So we'll take this back to where it was. There we go. And now I'm going to go into my actions panel, and in my actions panel I've got one called Painterly effect, which I've put on the website so you can download and install it. So I just need to open the Painterly effect action set, and there's only one action in it, which is this Painterly effect action, and I do is just click on that and then go down and click the play button. Now there's some instructions in, it just tells you about the image sizing, so I'll just click continue. This is a portrait image, so I want the height to be 1000, and I'll click OK. Set the parameters for the photocopy filter. Okay, I'm just going to leave them as they are, but you can play around with these and get creative, and click OK. Set the parameters for the palette knife. Again, I'll leave them as they were. Set the parameters for the watercolor filter. I'm okay with that. And then set the parameters for the second watercolor filter, and I'm okay with that. And then it puts the 2 adjustment layers for you on the top of the stack. So if I look in my layers panel now, you can see I've got exactly the same layers panel that I had before, and all you do, you can make whatever final adjustments you want to that image. So I hope that was useful. If it was, please give me a thumbs up, or better still, leave me a comment. If you haven't done already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss all the goodies still to come. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.